Here is the usual it's the usual media corporate press cover up. And what happens there is they are an extension of the authoritarian left, generally in the mainstream. That's just what it is. You may get a person or two that leans the opposite way, but for the most part, the cronies that are there to shield on behalf of the authoritarian left state. That's what it is. Here's another example of this that I'm about to show you guys, and this one's coming from Washington Post of all people. Remember, we covered a story the other day where I can't remember what publication that was, where they were like, "Oh, well, it's because of this Ukraine situation that there's these inflationary issues," and I was like, "Oh, that's weird," because these issues persisted before what just hit the fan. If you consider Russia's invasion, if you will. And here's another deal here where there are going to be economic ramifications and lack of growth. Let's say that. That's more accurately putting. The economic ramifications are already been felt. But right here, and this is the title. U.S. economy appeared ready to surge, but Russia's invasion of Ukraine could send shockwaves. So basically, it's like, so they're presenting a phantom scenario because when you consider the inflationary issues, it doesn't look like in any given time in the near future that some shit's going to explode in terms of growth from an economic standpoint. From an economic standpoint, that is. It's by what metric? Inflation's through the roof. This is what happens when you print 40% of the fucking money supply and you fucking with it as well. In the last couple of years, this is essentially what happened. So let's hear what it is their excuse was. Energy prices already jumped. They were jumping before this Ukraine-Russia situation. Is spiking up and down while policymakers look for ways to blunt the fallout. A few weeks ago, the coronavirus fading Omicron variant, falling gas prices, and a newly buoyant stock market. What is this person talking about? Set the table for what many felt could be. So it's all these hypotheticals. Well, maybe potentially it may happen. But the rosy scenario is suddenly in doubt as rapid geopolitical uncertainty has helped drive up energy prices and send global markets on a roller coaster ride. These changes could give many consumers and businesses pause and put more pressure on Washington leaders to respond, even though it is unclear how exactly they will intervene. The Federal Reserve is expected to move next month to begin raising interest rates in an effort to slow inflation. Man, these Keynesians that work for like the Federal Reserve and the Treasury and all these boards are fucking like retarded, man. But it could face new questions about how best to steer an economy during a rare military conflict involving Russia. President Biden, meanwhile, has said he will consider measures to blunt the impact of rising oil prices on Americans, including to scale more oil from strategic petroleum reserve. He warned energy companies not to opportunistically jack up prices while acknowledging that the economic consequences of Russia's invasion of Ukraine will be felt by Americans. So for those of you that don't know what the hell is going on with that situation, it is more so there's a certain percentage, not insanely high, but I guess decent amount enough to change the price, that is imported definitely throughout Europe. From Russia. Why? Again, self-inflicted wounds. This is what we talked about the last time we discussed this subject matter, and that when you look at all the constraints or restraints rather that the federal government, not just the state governments, but especially the federal governments, has placed, which disallow people with drilling, even entertaining nuclear. Forget about that. We talk about renewable energy. They never consider nuclear one of those. It's always fucking wind. But when, you get that, this is what you get. This is what you get. You get an economic situation where in this geographical area, you shouldn't be dependent on people across the world for something as daily used as oil, but that's what happens. That's exactly what happens. That's the fault of the politicians. That's the fault of the governments in that geographical area that don't allow it. You got plenty of your own oil in America. So why in the fuck are you even needing it? That's a completely different conversation, but it's one that needs to be had if we're going to talk about why this is the case. But it's not like they would never do that, because what would that require them to do? Admit fault. It would require these guys to admit fault, particularly these, again, renewable energy, fucking climate obsessed folk. Again, they never refer to nuclear when they talk about that. The primary impact is going to be the energy prices, but we're likely to see slower recovery this year than we otherwise would have, said Bill Adams, chief economist for Comerica Bank. So it's a fake economist. We're already seeing or facing higher energy prices, both at the pump and for natural gas, which is raising home heating costs this winter, and both will get worse in the coming months. In a speech delivered at White House, Biden on Thursday sketched out a broad range of sanctions and other penalized targeting vast swaths of Russian economy, including frozen assets at top banks, sanctions on Kremlin-aligned oligarchs, and limits on exports that might be beneficial to the country's technology sector. The early signs that Russia's economy is shuddering under the global pressure, with the stock market falling. Disruptions like this, Biden said, were some of the goals of the global economic pressure campaigns. I guess they're referring to all the sanctions and all of that, which we've seen those be placed. Even pockets of Asia, I believe it was Japan and South Korea. I think Japan, they wouldn't be sending like semiconductors to Russia or something like that. But the pain won't be contained to just Russia. There will be spillover effects of all the turmoil that impact American consumers as well. He said his administration will work to minimize. These are hollow fucking nonsensical terms. Much like he said Putin was scared of them. Protect American families and businesses, particularly in the face of rising gas prices. So I'm getting COVID's feel all over again, because it's deja vu, if you will, where problems created by government, the people then see, and it's like that they basically feel the ramifications of it. Government comes by and say, we must fuck up the economy even more, when it would be preferable that they did fucking nothing, or even better, got out the way. But instead they say, hey, we're from the government, we're here to help, and we're gonna be the Fed is messing with fucking interest rates, and there'll probably be some new stimulus form of like, and they'll probably go to like energy companies and shit like that, where monies, grants and loans are being sold off or being given to people that are sold off assets and stolen from taxpayers. Like, we've seen this before. It wouldn't be anything new. But really what they're using this as is a cover for the slower economic growth, and the slower economic growth is attributed to their own policies. But they would never admit that. So this was their out. Russia and Ukraine was their out. That was their out. They got to say, oh my God, some bullshit is going on out there, and we can kind of use that to say, well, this is the reason why the economy is slow, or the growth is slow. It's like, nah, bitch, you the reason that that's the case. You the reason. Simple as that.
You just listened to a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake, which is live throughout the week at 12 p.m. Central on YouTube.com/YoungRipper59 and Odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. Be sure to check out my website, EricDJuly.com, so you can stay up to date with everything it is that I'm doing. You can also become a member and get access to a bunch of cool perks and exclusive content, which includes a social media hub where you can interact with myself and other members. It even has an app that you can get, which is now live in the Google and Apple stores.